two videos on changing the subject of the equation. And once again, following on from the last video, we need to focus very much on what we are actually looking for. And what we're looking for is quite clearly the t. It says express t, and t is buried inside the middle of this function. To all intents and purposes, we have to unwrap this item in order to get at the t. So, as before, don't get lazy, write down exactly as it is in the question. And you have to ask yourself, when you're unwrapping something, a present, an Easter egg, or whatever it is, you start at the outside and you work your way in slowly. Now, we have a square root symbol. That's the first thing we meet. It's the outer packaging. And we have to undo that square root symbol. Now, at this point, you can pause the video after I ask the next question. And the question I'm asking you is, how do you undo a square root? Pause now and think. Well done, I hope. I hope you spotted is the opposite of a square root is squaring. If you look at your calculator, you will find the square root next to the square button. And there's a big hint there. Right then, now we need to get back to a bit of mathematics. Stop thinking of Easter eggs and Christmas presents. We need to get back to mathematics. So what we have here, I need to unwrap this square root. To unwrap a square root, we have to square. So there is a big bracket round it, and I am unwrapping it by doing its opposite. I am squaring it. What's the golden rule in mathematics? You might pause the video at this moment in time. Yes, you were right. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. So therefore, big bracket round everything on the other side. Now, sadly, there's only one thing on the other side. But now we're going to square both sides of this equation. So v becomes v squared. And what's special about squaring? It's opposite to square rooting. That's why we chose it. So what it does, it unwraps it. It actually takes it away, and we end up with u minus s over ut. And then we're back to the work in video 1. How lucky are we? So what we have now is we have to undo divide by ut. What's the opposite of dividing? Multiplying. So we're going to be multiplying both sides by, or everything, by ut. Now the technique we've used in the past when we're multiplying everything by a bottom is we've employed this bracket round everything technique. So we've now got ut on v squared is equal to ut on, don't forget when we say the word on, and we've got an expression which involves two items with a plus or a minus in between, then we ought to put those in brackets. And the whole point of multiplying across by ut is we had to undo a divide by ut. So therefore we had to multiply by ut. Why did we do that? So it would nicely disappear. So we've now got ut on v squared is equal to 1 on u, which is u, 1 on minus s, which is minus s. And this is when we stop and take stock of where we are. We are looking for t. And what looked like a ridiculously complicated expression, in actual fact, is a lot easier than what we thought. Why? Pause the video. Think about it. Welcome back. Of course, you've spotted it. There's only one t. So that makes our lives a lot simpler. So therefore, uv squared on t, just moving it to the end. Why am I moving it to the end? Because I wanted to. Now, I've got uv squared on t, and I want to undo it. What's it doing? Well, I'm not going to pause the video this time. You should know by the time I finish this sentence. We are multiplying something by t. We're multiplying it by uv squared. What's the opposite of multiplying by uv squared? Well, it's dividing by uv squared. If we divide by uv squared on one side, we divide by uv squared on the other. They cancel out, leaving us with a t, and I wish I stayed with the one colour, but hey-ho, Let's just keep going. And we've got u over v squared. Now, that is a correct answer. That is full marks. But you know what? That may not be the answer in the back of your books. So, you've got to remember a little trick in mathematics. And when there is only one single item on the bottom, then you can split the fraction into its original fractions. It's called partial fraction technique, where you've got uv squared under the first term u. Then you put the minus in the middle, and then you write the s again, and then you put a uv squared under that one. And that is also a correct answer, and you should technically get full marks for that. But again, pause the video. Can you see something else you can do? Once again, welcome back. What you should have spotted is there's a u on the top and there's a u on the bottom. And because this is a multiplication situation, you're allowed to divide top and bottom by u. When you divide this u by u, you get a 1. And when you divide this u by u, you get a 1. You would not be allowed to do it if it was u plus v squared. You can only do this one-to-one cancelling when you've got a multiplication. Now, so what does that now become? Well, it becomes 1 over v squared minus s over uv squared. The big question you have to ask yourself is, why would you do that when you already had full marks down here? And you've got my support. Stop here. Now, we'll do the last example for today. And what the last example is example number 4. And once again, we copy down what it says in the question. We go back, we read what's there to be said, and what's there to be said is we're looking for the A. Now, we're nowhere near getting the A. What's our immediate concern based on the last video is we need to get rid of the fraction. So how do we get rid of a divide by 2a squared? Pause, think for yourselves, do it, and then put the video back on to see if you are correct. Well, hopefully you remembered that if you are dividing by a squared, then you are going to be divided by 2a squared, you're going to be multiplying by 2a squared to undo it. You're going to be multiplying by 2a squared in order to undo it. So put 2a squared at the front and then carry out that process. So it's 2a squared on r is equal to 2a squared on, open bracket, p minus q, all over 2a squared. Cancel, cancel, leaving you with 1. So we've got 2a squared r is now equal to 1 on p, which is p, and 1 on q. Don't forget the minus in the middle. Now, once again, you need to see, what are you looking for? You're looking for the A. You've already highlighted that in the top. So what have you got to undo? Well, you've got to undo the multiply by 2. How do you undo a multiply by 2? You divide by 2. You've got to undo a multiply by r. So you divide by r. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. And then you can actually cancel out, and you're left with a squared equals p minus q over 2r. And then you've got to remember, what is the opposite of squaring? What is the opposite of squaring? And you should pause now, think about it. Welcome back. What it is the opposite of squaring is square rooting. So therefore, a is equal to the square root of p minus q over 2r, and you will lose 3 marks. Oh no, why have I lost 3 marks? Well, let's go back and think about what it means to do the opposite of squaring. Well, if I do the opposite of squaring, clearly you could argue it is the square root of 9, because the square root of 9 is 3. And if I now do 3 squared, I get back to 9. But what people forget is when you do a square root, there's a possibility that it could be a plus answer or a minus answer. So in actual fact, it could be plus or minus 3. Why? Well, because if you do plus 3 and square it, you get 9. You get back to your original. But also, if you do minus 3 squared, you also get back to 9, because a minus on a minus is a plus, and 3 on 3 is 9. So quite worryingly, the most forgotten bit of working out in mathematics, all the way up to pre-university level, is when people introduce a square root symbol to a piece of work, they forget to put a plus minus sign in front of it. So you've got to learn that, otherwise you are going to go slightly wrong. So that's really important. Thank you for staying awake with this video. Bye for now.